The Realty Debate with Manisha Natarajan, powered by Reliance Home Finance.
Hello everyone and welcome to the Realty Debate. To improve the ease of doing business in the real estate sector, Mr. Venkaiah Naidu last week released a set of model bylaws which provide for a structural framework to create an online single window system for building plan approvals. These also empower urban local bodies to grant permits within 30 days, and this is clearly music to the ears of the developers who were a worried lot after the passing of the regulator bill by both houses of the parliament. For them, the bill did nothing to ease the approval processes or hold the urban local authorities accountable for delays in building permits. Let's today decode the new bylaws with our guest and find out how much is it really going to ease the life of developers. Om Ahuja, CEO, Residential Brigade Group, joins us from the Bangalore studio. We also have with us Vineet Relia, Managing Director, Sare Homes in the Delhi studio. Anshuman Magazine CMD, South Asia CBRE joins us. And Sameer Jasuja, Founder and MD of Prop Equity. Before I start the discussion, let me tell you what the big two problems were from an industry point of view. Long and tedious approval process. The current regime of granting approvals is not only time consuming but is also replete with corruption at every level. This is what the industry has been saying for the longest time. Each project, now look at the number, has to get 60 to 70 clearances, which can take anywhere from, if you're lucky, 3 months, which you aren't in most cases, up to 18 months, and sometimes developers say even more. The second big problem, delays in environmental clearances. These are the biggest pain points and the prime reason for project delays across real estate markets in India. Currently, any project above 20,000 square meters requires environmental clearances by the State Environment Impact Authority, and approvals for developments above 1.5 lakh square meter have to come from the Union Environment Ministry. So they have to actually come to Delhi. Now, let's take a look at 5 ways in which the model building bylaws propose to make the lives of developers easy. First and foremost, new bylaws have fixed a time limit of 30 days to issue all building permissions by urban local bodies, and we will address them as ULBs from here on. It has proposed complete elimination of human interaction by giving an online building plan approval process or providing for it. Developers will now have to submit one common application form. Information for all approving agencies will be generated from it and forwarded automatically. So, along with one application, the developer also has to now submit one single payment. ULBs will then transfer payments to all different departments or concerned departments. Number 4, under the new set of bylaws, the builders will not need a separate environmental clearance. Also, monitoring and enforcement of environmental safeguards will be done at local body level during and post construction. And finally, number 5, requirements of completion certificates have been substantially reduced and simplified. This was again a place where delays were rampant. Okay, let me start with Anshuman Magazine. Anshuman, what do you think? I mean, I saw a whole set of developers extremely excited about it, but now there seems to be some pessimism creeping in as well. So what do you make of these new bylaws?
See, first of all, these are just suggestions. Now the states have to adopt it. So that way I think is a fantastic step. At least the central government has taken a step forward to say, look, these are the guidelines that they really mean to reduce and really mean, that there should be reduction in all this approval period for developers. And now really the developers and other community will have to take it up at the state level to push them to adopt these suggestions, and there will be flexibility. The key is that that there would be some accountability of the government, because I think somewhere it says that there has to be a time period before by which the local urban bodies have to come back and approve. Second is online. That's again a big step if that happens. And third is there is a risk rating, which they're saying, okay, they will have 3 categories of risk rating on projects. So which is really what is the size of the project, or some of the smaller projects where the risk is relatively lower, then they should not still be categorized. They should not take as much time as a large project for getting approvals. So I think it's very positive, but again, it's just a suggestion. Nothing has really happened on the ground yet. If the states really adopt this, and of course, there could be some modifications along with it where they can even improve it further. And what our research had studied, that if we really take these suggestions overall from pre-approval and during the project and post-approval, if we take all the approvals together with these suggestions, it will take 51 days approximately for getting approvals, which is much lower than 6 to 12 months what it takes today.
51 days, that's really a fabulous number, Om Ahuja, isn't it? How are you taking the model bylaws? Last time they were introduced in 2004, and actually 22 states did adopt them. So do you see a lot of resistance that states will not adopt them? How are you viewing it?
Well, at this point of time, we are very optimistic at this, looking at the bylaws, looking at the fine print there, but we still feel there are a lot of loopholes which need to be plugged. Every city has its own challenges. In Bangalore, for example, you have a lot more to see in terms of how HAL, the Hindustan Aeronautics Limited, has an airport, you have an Airport Authority of India, many other aspects. How are they looped into an urban local body? How does coordination will happen? Many other challenges with regard to fire department. So every drawing which goes to department, how will this be coordinated between various departments? I think those are the aspects we need to look at in terms of ground level reality. The fire inspection happens before the plan approval, fire inspection happens after the plan approval, fire inspection happens before the completion, after the OC. So many other things which happen in each other city, and how those will be bundled into a single window clearance, or maybe post completion, how will this be cleared? And that's where the delays happen.
Fair enough. So a lot of things which you will have to take care of state-wise. Vineet, what's your own summary of it? I mean, we get it that urban local bodies right now don't talk to each other. So that's going to be, according to me, the biggest challenge. How are you viewing it?
So I think, this is more of a wish list which the minister has announced, and truly the industry is very excited. It's been our wish list for long. But I think the biggest challenge is going to be in terms of how do you really implement it, and do the urban bodies plus all the other bodies which are involved in the approval, do they have the wherewithal to really execute it within the period which is defined here? I think that's going to be the biggest key, because currently we see it's about, approvals is about files moving across different offices, and you have teams which are regularly chasing them. Now, how that really pans out, and are the urban bodies really geared up to take this up? Because it's going to put a lot of stress on them. So I think the biggest challenge will be to get a buying in from the urban bodies that they have to do it in this method.
Okay, so state level buy-in I think is critical, but Sameer, then that's also critical for RERA to be effective. I think the biggest concern when the real estate regulator came was, and the bill was passed by both houses of parliament, was that it's a very one-sided bill and really nothing's being done to take care of the approval process. But now you have model bylaws, just like you have RERA, which is again a framework, and both need to be implemented at the state level. So at least there's now an even playing field between the developers and the consumer interests, isn't it?
No, I completely agree with you. I think this current government is taking very proactive steps in creating transparency both for the consumer and for the developer. Fantastic steps being taken. Where I feel that RERA would be an easier thing to implement, I think the single window clearance with respect to building approvals, with respect to timelines of 30 days, I think is almost impossible. I've been a part of an approval process when I was working with the developer, and there are so many technicalities involved with respect to land and with respect to building bylaws and with respect to fire clearances and many such approvals. It is almost impossible to be able to do that in 30 days. I have some suggestions that I can offer, which may be workable, but I just don't think 30 days is going to be a reality under any circumstances.
Anshuman Magazine, do you believe that the 30 days is impossible? It's a sort of an utopian kind of a deadline, because the technicalities involved in all these permits or just evaluating a construction plan are far more detailed?
I feel it is no doubt a very ambitious and a very tough target to meet, but it's not impossible. The reason for that is that that there has to be capacity building. I think one of the big challenges we, not in real estate, otherwise face in the country is that there is the capacity building at the government level has to be done. So local urban municipal bodies, authorities, do they have enough people? Do they have enough people who are trained? And if that capacity building is done, if everything is, the proper process has been done, there is more online kind of approvals done, it is possible to do it in 30 days. It's very difficult. I agree with Samir. As of now, where we sit, it seems impossible. But if we were to build capacity, train on the government side, put proper processes in place, and there is a streamlining done, it can be made possible. Although yes, it is tough. But there is definitely a challenge which we talk about all the challenges, but we don't talk about on the government level itself. Capacity building is a big challenge, and along with all this, the government should really, especially the state level government, would need to enhance and train their team, enhance the numbers, and build that capacity. So if we are, and especially if we have to invest or build so much infrastructure in the country, government side capacity building is a big challenge which needs to be addressed.
But that holds for actually anything and everything in India. Even for RERA to get implemented and well, there has to be capacity building, and you have to have trained manpower who are actually able to evaluate all of those things. Samir, what are your suggestions? How can it be made into a 30-day process?
Manisha, the point that you made, RERA is a scalable model, right? First of all, it gets enacted mostly once the buildings are almost completed or the structure is up and so on and so forth.
No, that's
right?
not true. You need all your permissions even before the building
Fair
can
enough,
start.
fair
right?
enough. But I'm talking about with respect to the consumers. When do the consumers really go for redressal? RERA is supposed to be a consumer-oriented bill. When will a consumer go to court or to RERA? Is when he is not getting his flat on time and so on and so forth, right? Or he's not getting his penalties.
Okay.
With respect to this, the biggest challenges are that, suppose, I know of so many cases in Noida, for example, land has been sold by the government and they don't own the land only. Now, if you're applying for building permissions, there are certain squatters sitting on the land. How are the various departments going to be able to demarcate the land to be able to give you the building permissions?
But Samir, that would be
and
a few cases.
I will come.
Those
No,
would
there
be
are a
few?
lot of cases like that, because everything has to start from the land level. And the suggestions that I was giving was that in our country there is this concept called let the buyer beware, right? So we should have a similar concept, and that's very possible, that the government gives you a tentative approval subject to a final approval which can take 3-4 months. So broadly you can look at the various applications that are made by the builder, that they are in order.
How do you put your life saving on a tentative approval, Samir?
No. I'll tell you.
That's very scary.
It happens all the time. By the way, developers are 9 out of 10 times changing those building plans after getting an approval and then remodifying those plans every time. All these super to carpet area changes that you hear of in every project, how do they happen? Building laws, the building
those will not happen.
Who knows about that right now?
Okay.
It is
No,
still.
so give us a
suggestion is
yes.
that if you have to do it in 30 days, you have to theoretically look at the applications made and say they're mostly in order, and then give a temporary permit, seeing that most of the stuff is in order, subject to there is more deliberation that is to be done on, say, a fire permit or what's happening on the ground.
So you make exceptions and give an approval.
Exactly. And with respect to that, then the developer also knows that if he's trying to pull a fast one on the government, he will be penalized, and they could be...
I think that's always been, the developers also, Vineet, have said that, give us the approval, and if we haven't met anything in good faith, then you can penalize us, but don't hold up our approvals. Do you think that's a doable process?
So I think, the issue here is in India we don't have an inline inspection. The inspection happens only on completion. Now, if your developer has built something wrong, what do you expect? He's not going to knock down the building. It's going to be a big issue.
That happens a year later. You're digging down the basements. In that time frame, you have enough time to be able to
there is nobody who
things.
can come and inspect there. There is no authority to inspect.
That's a part two.
So what I'm saying is the easier way to do it is you have almost, for example, let's say in UP you have 32 departments where the file travels around. Out of 32, I think other than the critical 3 or 4, there is no variability amongst the rest. It's a typical process of getting NOCs. So I think if it's an online process and it's like tick in the boxes, you could actually do a tick in the boxes.
So it's only 5 which are critical and need to be evaluated, 30 are tick in the boxes.
30 are tick in the boxes provided you're within the master plan zones.
Fantastic.
So if you're in a master plan zone, you're talking about a specific building plan, that is the only variability in it. Fire routes are also normally defined. There is a bit of variability in it. Other than that, more or less it's standard. So I think they have to be, government has to somehow, decide to do deemed approvals, or in the tick and box, say if my building is, let's say, 75 meters, then it's fine. I don't need to go to height clearance, right? Things like that. So you got to be innovative. It can be done.
Okay. My big question is why it can't be done is what happens to all the graft money? I mean, if you're going to make everything online, Mauja, what happens to the earning capacity of all these urban local bodies and everyone who has the power of saying or holding NOC? So that, according to me, is going to be the biggest challenge, isn't it?
Well, I would say there are ways to look at it, Manisha. That currently there is a great race among all the states to show that they are the best place to do business. They are the best place to basically start an industry. I think this model bylaws will set a new precedent in the country. And I could say that I was with the Minister of Urban Development in Telangana. I could see that the statement coming out saying that we will be offering single window clearance very shortly, and great initiatives coming out of Telangana. There will be soon a race among all the states and all the cities to compete and see that how this processes can be simplified. In municipalities across India today, most of the states, you can get birth certificate, you can get marriage certificate, you can get death certificate within 24 hours. I think if there is a will, there is a way.
Interesting. So you're saying that at least if for those states who want to be ahead in the race, this is going to be a compulsion to actually prove that they can do it. But what I've heard is, and I may be wrong, Anshuman Magazine, developers tell me that despite the fact that BJP's agenda has been no corruption, and from the top there has actually been a lot of cleaning up which has happened, but at the urban local bodies or at that level, corruption has not eased up even one bit.
But that is the reason why we need these steps. And like Om was saying, in other industries, we have it has been shown that as you remove the human intervention by going online, corruption has come down. And we are seeing this. I mean, he gave some examples, and I wanted to get a driving license made, and I was really renewed actually. I was able to do it in 15 minutes. I didn't talk. I went there. Nobody ever asked me for any money, and and it happened. And for me, it was really shocking. So things are improving. We no doubt in India we are very cynical, and we don't expect things to improve because the way it has been in the past. There's no doubt, and we are not to be blamed for that. But I think as going forward, things will have to improve, and they are improving. There's no choice. As we turn more, reduce the human intervention, as there is so much awareness, I think the corruption, of course, we can't wish away corruption. Corruption is there, it's big, but we are seeing it slowly reducing. And it is good, like you said, is coming from top going down. It will take some time for that corruption to go out of the lower levels of the government, but eventually it has to happen.
Okay.
Now, this may take some time, but at least the process has started.
I think what you've said is that you remove the human intervention, and that itself will make the process much, much more corruption free. Good example.
Remove the human intervention in these kind of applications. You have to physically go through those applications.
So there are a lot of, we've already discussed that there are many which are almost tick boxes, and then
even
for the
those
next
tick boxes, the application has to be viewed by somebody. It can't be automated. It just cannot be automated.
But at least the person cannot face the developer who's meeting or the person who's and that itself should, when you can't, who are you going to ask for? I mean, online you can't say, hey, you pay me so much then I will give you an approval.
There will be a single window bribe collection center right there, that when you make your application for the 32 departments, please submit the money here.
Okay, I don't think so.
It will be a single unified
I'm hoping
number.
not. I'm hoping not. We have seen cleaning up at many levels: the passport office, the license office, transport license office. Vineet Relia, are you hopeful that things will change? Achhe din are here at least for
I'm
the
sure
real estate
this will
sector,
happen.
both for consumer and the buyer. It's a start from the center, from the housing ministry, and it should percolate down to the states?
No, I think definitely it's a good start, and this will it will happen. It's a matter of time, and a factor of political will of the state governments as to how fast they want to implement it. There are models where it can happen really, even in an online situation. You have these random online checks like RERA in Dubai does it. They do it very nicely, where even your every concrete slab you cast, the inspector comes and checks in the morning. You don't even know who's going to come in, and it's a complete online process. So I think it will happen. Once this happens, I think next step will be to get into a inline inspection so that the quality of construction is also ensured while it's being built.
I think that's a very critical piece that you pointed out to Vineet earlier, that there's no point in just giving approvals. You have to have an inspection system as well, because a home and a house is literally somebody's life savings. Well, gentlemen, thank you so much to all of you for being here. Model bylaws 2004 was the last time they were introduced. We've got them again after many years, a decade plus. In fact, 12 years later, you've got another set of model bylaws which have taken into consideration the frustration of the developers in doing business. We can only hope both for RERA and for these model bylaws that at state level, because after all, housing and land are both state subjects, these are adopted by states in their race to be ahead, in their race to showcase themselves as great places to do business. And I think if states start competing to implement that, we are home. After the break, we move on to the other exciting watch-out subject in Indian real estate, which is closely linked to the revival of office and commercial real estate, that's REITs, Real Estate Investment Trusts. How soon will REITs become a reality, and when can we expect the first REIT listing in the country? We'll keep asking this question, and right now the answer comes after the break.